All right, we're going to shift gears. Let me ask you this as we transition to Apex. Which competitive scene are you looking forward to more personally, Overwatch or Apex Legends?
That's a good question. I actually really enjoy Apex as a game. I think it has a lot of potential. You know, I think that they actually do have a little bit of a similar problem that I think that their respective developers, Activision Blizzard and EA, both started a little too late, right? Like Overwatch had kind of fizzled out by the time the Overwatch League started. Apex has kind of fizzled out a little bit with its momentum as a game generally. Now that the competitive scene is starting, at least in full, right, with sort of like a tour. I'm not saying there haven't been Apex events. There have. This company has run some. But yeah, I think that generally I'm looking forward to Apex because I think it is, as a game, quite good. And I put a lot of hours into it once upon a time. I think it has potential. We'll see how it plans out.
With that said, though, a lot of players have been complaining about some game-breaking cheats that they have found in the game, or glitches, bugs, etc. I know that exists everywhere, but
yeah, exactly.
this here, for many competitive players, is particularly debilitating. But let's talk about some of the roster moves. So the first thing we will dive into is NRG completing their roster. Frexus is joining now, filling Dizzy's shoes. Of course, Dizzy retired from competitive play, will now focus on streaming, left NRG. So now we have Ace, Moore, Frexus, and Lulu Lovely rounding out the roster for NRG. But of course, that cloud is still there, right? When you think NRG and Apex Legends, you think Dizzy. So how does this team turn the page, start a new chapter, and write their own destiny, and put the past aside?
They just have to be damn good, right? Like, they have to be really competitive. The thing is like, I look at Dizzy as like Apex first superstar, right? Every game has them, right? That when games come out and when esports games come out, they have the one person and people latch onto them forever. This happened before even Faker existed, right? In League of Legends, he is now the perennial star that's lasted the past 7 years, but he wasn't the first. And look, like, the game has found someone else, and I'm sure that person in Apex will rise up, maybe not on NRG, but maybe elsewhere. We'll see another star that really takes the cake. I know there are big personalities out there, but someone who's also, one, very good, and two, very well spoken, and kind of captures the fans' interest. But I think the solution here for NRG is to get rid of the cloud of Dizzy. The best thing they can do is just be very, very good and compete really, really well, because people will be fans of them if they compete. People bandwagon in sports. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know how many LSU. No, I don't know how many LSU Tiger fans exist that were previously Alabama Crimson Tide fans this week.
Oh man, can you imagine?
After that, but you know.
Oh my.
But people bandwagon in sports. People bandwagon in esports. If NRG wants to make it past
but esports, it is times 100 though. I have to say this, since covering like esports at length, comparing it to traditional sports, I have never seen the level of bandwagon changing at the same event. People cheer more, and you've seen this, Smash is a great example. People cheer more for the story that's developing, even if they love a certain player that's competing, and they cheered for them the last match. It doesn't matter. If there's a better story with their opponent, they will switch in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. And so the way you do that if you're an esports team is you just win. Like, look at this with Liquid.
But not too much, because then the fans will turn on you if you win too much. Just ask Zero.
Or, I mean, ask Astralis. Like, they're so very loved. They're very loved by their home community of Denmark, but they are basically like everyone wants to beat them, right? They're the target. But you look at places like Liquid too. Like, they've really turned things around. They've been much better in Counter-Strike the last couple of years. Been much better at League of Legends. So, like, back to the original point, I think that the way NRG gets this done and gets it past Dizzy, or gets people past Dizzy as like the top guy to root for, because he was a big personality, is you just win. You just win.
So Frexus is joining the roster with NRG, and previously was with Cloud9, and Reciprocity came in 4th in the Global Loot League NA Series. So NRG rounding out their roster. One thing we should note as well, as we get into the new season of Apex Legends Competitive, is the fact that, much like other BR titles, Fortnite is a great example of this, you don't have to partner with your own org's players.
Yeah, it's super weird, but it's
okay,
weird.
But
it's weird from a money perspective of people investing in BR games, teams investing in BR games, which is good for the ecosystem. There's a problem that exists in fighting games because generally, like, investing in a single player doesn't necessarily net you a lot, right? Other than, like, hey, Sentinel's got a lot of interest because Booga went on to win the world champion or the World Cup, right? But I think that generally it's weird from an investment perspective, but I kind of like it that it's organic, so I won't criticize it too much. From the business side, because I like that it's organic. That
it's not new too. Fortnite does this.
Yeah. I like that players play with people that they enjoy playing with and that they are most competitive with, rather than just shilling on the business side of things.
There is a new event happening. It's called the Grand Soiree event. It will kick off on January 14th. Lots to unpack here. It's going to be basically a series of limited time modes every 2 days. It will cycle throughout the event. Some of the modes, I won't read them all here, you can find them online. But for example, a third-person mode, which will be a classic out-of-body experience. We have Live, Die, Live, where you automatically respawn on living squad mates every time the ring closes. There's several others. There's skins as well. I think there's a 90s rapper, Crypto skin that you can have. There's a bunch of skins. Anyway, you can definitely check them out. But these modes, when you look at them, do you hope that some of them become permanent? Do you also feel like, listen, we need more of this from Apex Legends to remain competitive in VR?
So that's a lot to break down. I think from people need to be interested in Apex Legends again. This is a really fun thing, right? Like that's part of the thing that League of Legends has done well is like with Earth and other game modes that they've put out. It just draws people back into the game.
Yes.
I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people that come back to Apex to try some of these various different game modes or people who try it for the first time because they see discussion online, right? So great from the game perspective. I think having 2 different game modes, it's been very difficult for anyone in esports to pull off where you would have 2 game modes that are both really popular. We saw PUBG have this problem initially with third person and first person. Right now they're also trying to do PC and they're trying to do mobile from a competitive perspective. It's hard to manage 2 things at once. So I think moving forward with Apex, it's best to just stick with the mode that people are already playing from a competitive perspective. Obviously, this is a little different, and I think that it's fun to shake things up. But, I mean, as we head into a more structured Apex season heading forward, I think it should just be 1 game mode, and it should be consistent. That's one of the things people complain most about Fortnite is that things change all the time. So.
And there are people complaining about Apex as well. Here's a tweet from Lulu Lovely talking about some of the bugs in the game. Quote, in addition to silent footsteps, silent devos, silent vaulting and zips, expletive servers, broken SBMM, Wraith portable bug, throwable glitch, cheaters running around nonstop. We now have invisible Watson fences. So that is a long list of things to send to EA and Respawn and say, look, this is crippling our competitive scene because it's not making it true and fair.
As someone who plays a lot of shooters, it is like the footsteps one is the one that anytime I get the bug, it's weird. Because like footsteps are everything in shooters, right? You have to be able to hear where people. It's part of the strategy in Counter-Strike. It's become part of the strategy in Call of Duty now, right? Like it's the cue that like makes you think, and you have to like you have to think left ear, right ear, and everything else. Yeah, that is a long list of things. I do think that Respawn has to fix it before this longer competitive season starts for Apex with more structure. Because you don't want look, people complain about bugs all the time. The slide canceling in Call of Duty is a great example of this.
Sure.
It's been a problem for many, many versions of Call of Duty, and it only came up like 2 weeks ago, right? Like people complaining at least in mass, for the first time, right? So game bugs and players complaining about game bugs is not new. But in this mass, and also for what they are, because those are some pretty large game-breaking bugs for any shooter, much let alone Apex Legends. But in that volume, yes, they need to fix it. They only have about a month's time to get it right, so they better get to work.
I mean, that's a short amount of time to fix a large amount of things. Here's a question, though. If everyone knows of these bugs, and everyone practices these bugs, or these known glitches, these known hacks, whatever you want to call them, do you say, look, I mean, if they're not able to be fixed before tournament play.
But they're inconsistent. That's the problem. You don't always get these bugs. You sometimes get these bugs. So that's the RNG of this, right? Is like, when do you get them versus when do you not? If they were just a game feature and you're like, oh, Apex no longer has footsteps. Oh, there's this like thing that you
so
can
you
run
would rather
into
it just be across the board.
Yeah, I would rather it be
take the RNG element out of it.
Consistent. It should be consistent.
Even though
with how
BR
the game
has a lot of RNG element to it to begin with.
Right, but to be fair, that RNG is you're in front of it, right? When you look at like how the ring works, like yes, it's RNG, but everyone knows it's RNG. The bugs, you don't know that whether you're going to not be able to hear someone or not. So they either need to pull them out of the game or they need to fix them. There needs to be a consistency across the board.
Yeah.
They should just fix them.
I think, I'm with you on team fix, absolutely.
Yeah,
especially if you get to a situation.
Because what if you're in a match, right, and like you can hear footsteps, but I can't.
Yes.
That gives you and I'm against you. That gives you considerable, or your Watson gates are visible and mine are not, right?
Yes.
Like it makes it inconsistent, and it's not the entire game. I don't think bugs out. It is an individual basis on the client end of things. So I think it just needs to be consistent across the board.
Particularly if we get to a situation where an Apex Legends competitive event is getting out of the bubble of just the Apex fan, and suddenly it's being watched by more people in esports and even people outside of esports. Let's just say maybe the grand finals, for example, and then something like this happens that is clearly visible to the viewer, or something comes out after the fact where players were complaining about something. That's not a good look.
Think about the Fnatic boost so many years ago in Counter-Strike. Like people, they discovered this new boost in practice. They used it on Overpass, and it became this huge thing because you could see halfway across the map with a sniper rifle, and you were just buying auto snipers and just sitting up there and just shooting across the map and just demolishing everyone. That was such a controversy. I bet you there are people that don't even follow Counter-Strike at all, and they know that. They know what happened, and they've seen the clip, and it was such a big deal because of the moment it was in. You don't want to end up in that scenario if you're respawning or running Apex events. Got to fix it.
Yeah.
Got to fix it. I know it's in crunch, and I don't like crunching employees more than anyone else. I think that game labor issues in games are horrific, and I hate when companies brag about our company all of our employees worked 80 hours each this week. No, that sucks. You're ruining people's lives. Shut up. Be better.